Welcome back to the Yeah No Yeah podcast. My name is Noah. I'm here with Justin.
Let's get it.
We got a great slate for you this week. Dame finally traded, but it wasn't to the Heat. We got my top 5 shocks of the NFL season so far through 3 weeks, and we got our pick'ems for this week, and we got some nice final thoughts for you too. Let's go. All right, first things first, we have to talk about Damian Lillard. So this entire offseason, he's been talking about how he wants to get traded to the Heat. No one but the Heat. He won't play for anyone except the Heat. And then he gets traded to the Bucks. And he seems all right with it.
And he's not there. Yeah. It's Dame time, that's for sure. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know if anyone was expecting that. I think in the last couple of weeks.
It's freaky time. It's freaky time between Giannis and Dame.
Oh my god. The last couple of weeks I've seen on Twitter so many times of people saying, "Oh, well, now they're talking to the Raptors, now they're talking to the Celtics," and like a ton of teams were like, "Oh, these are now the front runners." It was like 7 different teams. Like, okay, so there's not a front runner. And then the Trailblazers just pulled the trigger and they went for it. I commend them. I think they shouldn't have just sat around and waited for the Heat to make a better trade. I know they were talking about the Raptors heavily and the Celtics heavily, which would have been the Celtics would have been a decent spot. I think the Raptors he would have not played for them. But the Bucks already the number 1 team in the league last season. Obviously, Giannis getting injured in playoffs kind of ruined the season for them. So this obviously provides some huge help. They had to give up a little bit, but.
They had to give up Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, couple picks. Yeah. And honestly, for them, they didn't give up too much. Like, it didn't completely drain them of their assets. Yeah. The question mark that I have, though, is this team going to work? I think it made more sense for them to trade Middleton. I'm assuming that the Trailblazers wanted Drew Holiday back. Drew Holiday is a nice defensive specialist against guards.
An update on that, actually.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, before you say that, the Trailblazers have already publicly announced that they're shopping around Drew Holiday. So I don't think they cared.
So I did see that. I honestly think that Drew Holiday is a better trade piece for them anyway. I honestly think that Drew Holiday is one of those players that he doesn't need to be the scorer. He's fine with being the defensive guy, the guy who brings the ball up. He doesn't need to be the guy who brings the ball up, right? He's just kind of he's almost like a Swiss Army knife. He can play a lot of positions. He can play 1 through 3, and he can defend 1 through 3 too, which is a huge benefit. And I think that's a huge trade piece, and I think they knew that. I honestly think that it would have been better for the Bucks to trade Middleton rather than Drew Holiday in the first place. I understand why they probably couldn't get that done, but I think Giannis also likes Middleton a little more because they've been together for this entire
100%.
time.
Yeah.
But this is definitely leaning more towards an offensive side of, like, offensive schemed team now rather than pushing the defensive side.
Yeah, and that's what they needed, right? Because once Giannis goes out, they kind of fall apart. Like, Drew Holiday and Middleton can only do so much. And I know, Lopez is a good center to have. He can stretch the floor. He's reliable. But other than that, their team isn't really anything special. So Damian elevates significantly. He's definitely a better point guard than Drew Holiday, even though I like Drew Holiday. But you're right. It's how well this team's going to mesh together now. And personally, I think they're going to do just fine. I think Giannis and Damian both want a championship. Or for Giannis, another. And Damian's willing to change his game up a little bit if it results in a ring. I don't think he needs to be the primary scorer. I think it would be beneficial to have him out on the 3-point line. But he can take over when it's time. It's Dame time. He needs to take over, and he can do that. And I think that's what Giannis needs, because Giannis starts to crumble under the pressure, and he gets beat down, bully ball, all that fun stuff. And he needs that person to kick it out to and have the ball in his hands for the final shot.
Yeah, I agree. they're going to complement each other offensively really well because Giannis can't shoot threes. Well, he's getting better, but he's still not there. And so he's that driving force. He can play down low. Damian doesn't need to always shoot the three, you know what I mean? But they're going to complement each other well as long as their personalities mesh well. Because Giannis is more of that fun guy. Damian Lillard is more of that serious player. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's going to be an
I
interesting
think
way to
the
gel.
common denominator for them is they both will work at it nonstop. Like that seems to be their shtick. Like Giannis will put in the 1,000 hours in the gym to go from a scrawny kid from Greece to one of the most physically dominant players in the league. So I think they both have that in them. But for the other teams in the trade, who do you think actually won this trade out of the Trailblazers and Suns?
I honestly think it's the Suns. The Suns were able to offload DeAndre Ayton, whose contract was outrageous now that we look at it from 1 year, after.
Where did he go?
He went to the Trailblazers.
He did? Okay. I
Yeah,
was looking
yep.
into it and I couldn't see his name anywhere. Okay, Trailblazers.
Yeah. But I mean, they got a lot of guys who can play off the bench, which is what they needed. They needed depth. And I think we can all agree that they needed depth.
Yes.
After the Bradley Beal trade, it looked like that they were just sticking to the one rotation they were going to play the entire time. Now with adding Nasir Little, honestly, can't. Thank you, Keon Johnson. They added nice pieces. So
yeah, they're not great, but yeah,
huge,
they can go in.
Yeah, I think this is a huge win for the Suns, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I like Nurkic on this team. Right, DeAndre Ayton kind of they're similar players. Right, at the end of the day, they're not really the most defensive minded, but Nurkic knows his role. I think DeAndre Ayton wanted to be more of a star, I guess, and Nurkic is okay with not being that, and he won't ask for much. So he'll just come in, he'll be their nice starting center, and they'll be guard heavy like they should be anyways. For the Trailblazers, they're in full rebuild mode at this point, right? They already committed that they're getting rid of Drew Holiday. They have 3 first-round picks, or a first-round pick from the Bucks in 2029, and then 2 swaps for 2028 and 2030. I think that's all. They got a young player, Toumani Camara from the Suns.
I've never heard of him. Honestly,
yeah, I've
never heard of
him. So obviously, rebuild mode. They have DeAndre Ayton, which sucks for Ayton, but and they have nice guards. That was the reason for trading Lillard, right? They committed to their new young rising guards. Lillard didn't like that, so they got rid of him. That's fine, but they're gonna have to prove themselves for this to work out for them. And honestly, it's in their best interest that they don't prove themselves for a couple of years so they can get a nice couple draft picks. We'll see what happens out of that.
I agree. They already said that they're willing to listen to trade talks for Jeremy Grant. So, yes, they are in full rebuild mode. Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons is going to be, that's going to be their backcourt. And with Ayton as their front court, maybe that'll gel really well. Ayton needs to be, like you said, Ayton can't be a behind-the-scenes guy. He needs to be in the spotlight. He needs to be scoring. And that's why it worked originally with the Suns when Chris Paul came over. Him, Booker, and Ayton kind of worked very well together. But then they wanted the star power with Durant and Bradley Beal, so it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah, that's true. No, I think it was a great trade all around, right? Trailblazers committing to the rebuild, Suns getting some depth and getting rid of Ayton, and then obviously the Bucks are going for championship next season. It's a ring or a bust.
Absolutely, but Bucks or bust.
Bucks or bust. Oh my god!
All right, one more question for this though. Does this make them the favorite in the East?
Yeah, they were the favorite in the East, I think, last season too. Until Giannis.
They were, which shocked me though. Because with the
Celtics, they had the best record in the league.
Yeah, but it's regular season though. And when you get to the playoffs, it's different.
Yeah. When once he went down, everyone's like, "Oh, this team's nothing special." So, I think Damian Lillard greatly improves their chances. he was dragging a Trailblazers teams to the playoffs the few seasons he got there. Like, they shouldn't have made it those seasons either. So hopefully they get it. I still think the Heat are a contender. I still think the Celtics and 76ers are up there. But in my eyes, they're not going to stop the Bucks.
I did see this one thing on Twitter, and a lot of people are questioning Pat Riley's trade moves because Durant, Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell, and Damian Lillard all said that like their preferred destination was the Heat, and he didn't get any of them. Mm-hmm. But my only retaliation for that is he just made the freaking playoffs with a Jimmy Butler-led team and a bunch of backups. Yeah, like you shouldn't question that.
No. What was weird though is it seemed like a lot of those backup players kind of left. You had Strauss that left, and you had who else left? There's someone
Gabe
else.
Vincent.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know if Kevin Love's still on the team.
I don't know, but it seemed like the team kind of fell apart without anything in return. I'm sure they'll be fine, I guess, next season. But I heard somewhere that he was sitting on it, and he didn't want to get rid of Tyler Hero, which I think is dumb, but whatever. He has commitment to these young guys that he's loyal to, and it's like, that's nice and all, but if you're trying to get a star to push you over the top, you gotta get rid of those pieces. Like you either want the ring or you don't, and I guess he's playing the long game, and I don't think it's gonna work out for him, but we'll see.
Yeah, the problem was I don't even think it was Tyler Hero. I think the Trailblazers wanted something more. They knew they weren't going to get Bam, and I don't really know how to describe it, but I don't think that they really wanted to give him to the Heat. Not as like a screw you to Damian Lillard, but they just didn't want that to work out because there was so much media hype. And I think that they just wanted to trade him to somewhere else. Just to stick it to the Heat.
Some politics going, yeah. I see that. That's fair. We'll see how this season works out, though. I'm excited to see Giannis and Dame on this court together.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun season. All right, let's move into my top 5 shocks of the NFL season through week 3. We're going to start from the bottom and make our way up. They're going to get hotter and hotter. All right, number 5.
For those who don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. For those who don't know, I don't know these either, so these will be shocks to me. So here we go. We're going to be in this together.
All right. Number 5 is C.J. Stroud as the best quarterback in this quarterback class. I think we can all just kind of look at the eye test so far. Bryce Young just doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look like the guy. He's too small. He's already gotten hurt. And that was in week 2. CJ Stroud just looks good. Like, he's developed. He makes the reads correctly. He has he's number 3 in most passing yards this season, which as a rookie is amazing. And with a wide receiver group that isn't very good. Nico Collins is the number 1 wide receiver on that team. He came from Michigan. Nobody really knew who he was besides Michigan fans. So he's made it work with a subpar skill player set in Houston and with a pretty bad offensive line. He looks like the franchise quarterback for the future.
Yeah, I like that take. And Anthony Richardson looks decent. He has a lot of upside, but you can tell he's still got the jitters. And obviously, the injury last week kind of set him off course a little bit, but we'll see how he returns. But yeah, I agree with that. CJ Stroud's definitely a top front runner right now.
All right. Number 4, this one hits a little closer to home. The Steelers still can't run the ball, which is very un-Steeler-like. They've always had a very good run game and a very good defense. They have one of those two things, and it's not the run game. And
no, it is not.
Their offensive line is rough. They played better against the Raiders, but it still wasn't clean. And the Raiders have a pretty bad defensive scheme. So they need to work something out. Maybe getting Deontay Johnson back will help it, but I don't really see how that's going to help their run game and their offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to improve that situation. Like they're in the world of hurt right now. I think it's going to be a struggle all season, and I feel bad for Kenny Pickett because he's going to get a lot of the slack for it. When in reality, it's just something's not working.
I agree. He's already gotten a ton of hate for it, and again, I agree with you. It's not really his fault. He hasn't played great. Like if you look at what
He hasn't played great, but he hasn't played terrible.
Right. If you look at what like CJ Stroud's doing with a bad offensive line, yeah, I get it, right? But he has to play better, but his team around him has to play better as well.
True.
All right, we're going back to another quarterback for number 3, Jordan Love, another elite quarterback. Who saw that coming? After all the Aaron Rodgers, all the Aaron Rodgers drama, everyone kind of expected there to be a fall off on this team, and there really hasn't been. They actually look like a more cohesive, offensive schemed team rather than just Aaron Rodgers. Their wide receivers have stepped up. Christian Watson still hasn't played, and they're doing really well. And going up against the Lions tonight, I'm actually picking the Packers tonight, to be honest with you.
Oh, whoa. I'm not picking them, but it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be not the closest game because there's been close games, but it's going to be a very close game again.
All right, number 2. The Broncos are worse than last year. They had a pitiful season last year. Russ was awful. He looks better this year, but the defensive side got significantly worse. The Dolphins dropped 70 on him, and the team is demoralized. And I think they're going to be picking in the top 5 this year.
I agree. I would hate to be a Denver fan right now. I don't know any Broncos fans, which is good. If I'm Russell Wilson, or if I'm the organization, get Russell Wilson out, get rid of Sean Payton, right? He's the head coach now.
Yep.
Gone. It didn't work. Like, you blew it, kid.
Yeah, it's rough. I think if I had to guess what's going to happen this offseason, if the season goes as poorly as I imagine it will, I think they'll keep Sean Payton. I think they'll draft a quarterback, and Sean Payton will have a new weapon that he can mold and form. That's not Russell Wilson at his attitude.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I get it. We'll see what happens.
All right, and then number 1, the Dolphins' offense can't be stopped. You just have to find a way to slow it down a little bit. And your team has to score more than they do. Because, good Lord, they dropped 70 on the Broncos last week. Not last year. And they did that without Jalen Waddle. That was mostly their rushing attack, which isn't even their strongest part of their offense.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It was a disgusting performance. They had the chance to set the record for the most points, and they didn't because they honestly felt bad for the other team.
Yeah. So here's my thing. I can't imagine another team scoring as many, like keeping up with them. I don't know who's going to keep pace. I guess the 49ers are the only other team that potentially, and they have a better defense, so they could slow them down a little bit. That's the only team I can imagine keeping pace at this moment.
I think if there's a team to do it, I think it's going to be this weekend. It's in Buffalo. It's a good team. The Buffalo Bills have a good team. Their defense is good. Josh Allen is good. Do they have enough to slow down Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane? You see where I'm going. There's a ton of weapons, and they're all fast.
Yes, I saw a stat on that, actually. The top 4 speeds of the NFL so far this season have been Tyreek, Mostert, Tyreek, and Achane.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, they're all above 20 miles an hour. It's ridiculous.
God. No wonder why teams can't keep up with them.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I guess the Bills will be a good litmus test. I think Josh Allen at this moment is looking decent, but I don't know. I don't have faith that he's going to pull it out when the times are tough. Like, he's going to throw a stupid interception that's going to cost them the game. It's going to be something simple like that, and that's just tough to see.
My one question mark is going into the winter months, does that slow them down at all?
True. That's very true. We'll see.
So, yeah. Luckily, they get Buffalo early on in the season when it's still a little warmer. But I think that this is their first real test for how this season is going to go.
Definitely.
All right. So, what do you think of my list?
I like your list. The only other shock that I've... it's not even really a shock. It's kind of just a... And this is early, right? It's week 3. It's just a disappointment that the Lions... They beat the Chiefs when it counted, right? But then they struggle against the Seahawks. They beat the Falcons, but who are they going to struggle against next? Like, it seems like they're very wishy-washy, and they need to just come out and finish these games strong. Like, I get Seattle's a good team, and they were missing some of their weapons, but you need to put those away. And I guess it's just a disappointment that they're not. They beat the Chiefs, and I was going to ride that high, and brought back to reality real fast. So hopefully they continue to push through. That was a good win against the Falcons. We'll see if they can establish themselves as a dominant team. That's going to be a shock to me if they don't.
I like that. I think I didn't want to put them on the list just because of the win against the Chiefs. Everyone was riding a lot of highs. Kelsey wasn't playing. Chris Jones wasn't playing. So we didn't want to put that there yet. We'll see where we're at about
it's still early
season. Yeah. But the Lions look good from the perspective of it's all parts of their team. It's not just their offense killing everybody.
True.
Like their defense played well last week. Against the Seahawks, their offense played very well. And then against the Chiefs, their run game was great and their defense held. So they're winning games in different ways, which is very good for the team.
Yeah, they just need to pull all of that together, and they'll figure it out, I hope. And it seems like Jared Goff's more comfortable. The run game can be top tier if they have Montgomery in, because then Gibbs can be their pass and open field running back, right? And then, the defense just needs to stay healthy. I'm really worried about the defense, and I'm worried about the offensive line. They've had a couple injuries there, too, to start the season. So they just need to stay healthy. If they stay healthy and they lose, that's fine. I'll take it. But I don't want to see them lose because of injuries.
I agree. So they got the Packers tonight. So you got the Lions tonight?
I'm picking the Lions. I think the Packers have been playing decent, but Jordan Love's been winning kind of off of some fluke games or some crazy incidents. He's found a way to win. I give him credit for that. But the Lions are a legit team. They've also beat pretty weak teams to start off. Like they play the Bengals, the Saints, and who was the other team they beat?
Falcons. Well, Falcons beat them, but...
Oh, yeah, you're right. So they lost to the Falcons. The Lions beat the Falcons. And then the Saints could have won the game if Jameis Winston wasn't in. And the Bengals obviously had a terrible start to the season. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I have the
Lions. All right. I like it. Hopefully they can get some pressure on Jordan Love tonight. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
This is also the best defense that the Lions have faced this year. So
true. So far,
we'll see where we're at. All right, let's move on to college this week. We got our pick'ems again, but we got to talk about last week and what our records currently are for the moment. I am a solid 16-10. I pulled off a 4-2 week. My trajectory is high, Justin. I've been feeling good.
I love it.
It's been a great couple weeks. Riding high.
I'm also sitting at 16-10. If I counted my last week's picks right, I believe it's 16-10. But I'll confirm that. If it's anything different, you'll see it on the screen now. If we keep at this pace, I'm happy because some of these picks I'm just picking by the seat of my pants. I don't know. Like, why am I picking the Gators to win these games? I don't know, but I'm getting lucky.
What's hilarious is when we picked the Tennessee Florida Gators, I called you crazy for calling that win, and you got it. So
exactly. If someone's been listening to this and being like, "Oh yeah, I like that pick," or "I like that pick" from both of us, I bet they're doing amazing right now.
You're probably right.
And then going into Nick's record, I know last week he was what was he 2-3, And this week he was 4-2, so he's now at 6-5. And then last week Josh was 1-4, and this week he was 3-3, so now he's 4-7. So
All right. So overall, we're positive. We're positive.
Not bad. Yeah. Yeah. Those all we're winning. If we would have bet all these games, everyone did what they said, we'd be winning money.
Yeah, we'd be positive.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of us bet a little more money than others. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I bet 0.
All right. Let's get into this week's games. So, for starters, we got to start with the game tomorrow night, Friday night game, out in the state of Oregon, but it's not Quack Nation. It's the other ones. Number 10, Utah, at number 19, Oregon State. Oregon State coming off a tough loss to Washington State. Utah is a solid 4-0 this week, going into this week. Still don't have their starting quarterback yet. Doesn't look like he's going to play. Who you got? Oregon State's -3, by the way.
Yes, Oregon State's -3. I think Utah. I think Utah's going to pull the upset, actually. So, we'll see how that goes.
I'm on board with you. I think Utah will be able to stop the run, which is Oregon State's strength. They'll put a little pressure on DJ Uyunglele.
Hey, that's close enough.
I think they'll get a little pressure. And I think they win the game outright.
Yeah, I agree. What did Josh we don't have Josh's picks. What does Nick say?
Nick is also picking Utah. He's riding that wagon.
Yes, he is.
All right, next we got number 24 Kansas at number 3 Texas. Both teams undefeated going into this game. Who you got?
Yeah.
Texas -17.
Yes. Kansas has been looking decent. I don't think they've played nearly the talent that Texas has played so far, and I think Texas has it. I think it'll be more than 2 touchdowns and field goal. So yeah, I'm picking Texas.
All right. This one's heartbreaking for me because I feel like this is a trap game. They got Oklahoma next week. It's the Red River rivalry. I don't think they're going to lose, but 17's a lot. Kansas is a good offensive team. I think they keep it within 17. I'm going with Kansas.
Here's my question. Do you think Kansas is a better offensive team than Alabama?
Yes. I do.
Okay. I was just curious. All right, that's fair. All right, what did Nick say?
Nick has Texas covering the 17.
All right.
I believe he is on board with the Quinn Ewers hype. And I think he's riding that Alabama high as well, like beating Alabama too. So,
yes.
All right. Next, we got number 2 Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan is a 17-point favorite going into Nebraska. Who you got?
Man, I don't like betting or picking Michigan teams. Just in general, they usually let me down. With that said, man, I think Nebraska's gonna be within that 17. I think Michigan's still gonna win, but I think it's gonna be like a 2-touchdown game.
Okay. Interesting fact here. Okay. Georgia and Michigan.
This might change my pick.
Georgia and Michigan both have not covered the spread this year. The only ranked teams to not do it. And they're number 1 and number 2. So do with that what you will. I'm going to take Michigan. I think this is the week they do it. 17 just feels like a disrespectful number. I honestly don't think Nebraska's going to score.
Whoa. Okay.
Honestly, truthfully, I don't. I think this will be like a 24-0 game.
Okay. If that happens, I'll be happy, and I'll be okay with that loss. You know.
Nick is also picking Michigan for this week. That's not a shocker. Go blue.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we got number 11 Notre Dame coming off that tough loss at home to Ohio State, going to Duke. Number 17 Duke, who beat Clemson first week and are undefeated going into this game. Notre Dame is a 5.5-point favorite going into North Carolina.
Yeah, because of the 5.5, I'm picking Notre Dame because that's a weird number. I don't like that number. Picking Notre Dame. I also think Notre Dame played a decent game against Ohio State, if they would have figured their stuff out at the end of the game, it may have been a different finale or final score. So this is the week Duke loses.
I agree with you here. I have Notre Dame minus the 5.5. This feels different than last year. So after that tough loss to Ohio State last year, Notre Dame kind of rolled over and lost to Marshall. Everyone's like, oh, Notre Dame's not that good. Well, then they, on the back half of their season, they killed everybody and they proved that they were a good team. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like, I don't think they're going to have that Ohio State hangover. I think they're going to come into Duke with a chip on their shoulder. They know that they can still make the playoff with the schedule that they play, and I think they go in and win this game.
Yep, I agree.
Nick also is picking Notre Dame. Are you and Nick matched on everything so far?
Yeah. So far, I think so.
Yeah.
No,
Ooh.
I didn't pick Michigan.
Oh, you're right. So, yeah, we all have different picks so far. All right, and then our final game, number 13, LSU, going to number 20, Ole Miss. Both teams have one loss this year. One to Bama, one to Florida State. LSU is a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Who you got?
I got LSU. I'm picking the favorite. I still believe they're a top-tier team, and that loss to Florida State, although heartbreaking, doesn't show that they're a weak team. And I have never been high on Ole Miss. I'm still not high on Ole Miss. LSU all the way.
Ole Miss really let me down last week. A little heartbroken about it because I didn't think Bama was a good team. I was kind of hoping that Ole Miss was a good team. Then I watched the game. Their defensive pressure is good, but man, their offensive line gets pushed around. LSU, big.
Whoa,
in
big.
This game.
Two touchdowns?
Like more than 2 touchdowns.
Oh, I'm not going that far.
Line could have been 17. I probably still would have picked LSU.
Oh wow, okay.
Nick is also picking LSU in this game.
Love that.
So we're all in a lock agreement on this one.
Yeah. So we all said Utah, right?
Yep.
Me and Nick said Texas. You said Kansas.
Yep.
You and Nick said Michigan. I said Nebraska. Not to win, but to cover. And then we all picked Notre Dame. We all picked LSU.
Yep.
I love it.
I think we're all kind of getting our flow on. This feels like a big week for us.
Yeah. Well, this will be, this is a differentiator, right? I caught up. I'm going to take the lead. Who knows?
All right. Next, we got our final thoughts. I'll go first this week.
Yeah, I love that.
So there's been a lot of talk about Zach Wilson. I know you got something on this as well. I'm a little worried about the Jets. So there's been a lot of talk about how the defensive side of the ball for the Jets wants Saleh gone. That he's been covering up for Zach Wilson's mistakes a lot, saying that's on him. In the locker room, you can feel it, right? Like, this team's about to implode, which it will be a devastating blow to the Jets, and I don't think they can recover from that, even with Aaron Rodgers coming back. They need to make a move, okay? This kind of leads into what you're saying, but I worry that some of these defensive stars are going to ask for a trade. And I think it's going to happen after this week when the Chiefs come in and blow them out. And Taylor Swift is again the hype of the week.
Oh God, Taylor Swift. This was in their script. I was not expecting it.
It was in the script. You're right.
Oh,
Lil Wayne's coming next.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, I agree. I know beginning of the season and even preseason we were talking about, the Aaron Rodgers, he needs to, be given grace by the fans and like they need to allow him to have his time. Obviously, injury, all that changes. I don't think the fans are happy with Zach Wilson, but at the same time, I don't think they're the ones that are driving this, and that's the biggest issue, right? You're saying defensive players are calling out the coach to get rid of Zach Wilson. Who would have expected that? I figured it would be fans, rioting, but it sounds like what you said, it's like a civil war. So that is a huge deal. I agree. I still like your initial take on maybe the trade for Kirk Cousins. that's an option. And then I'm going to segue this right into my final thoughts. Colin Kaepernick with the letter to the Jets. So for those who don't know, Colin Kaepernick was a top tier or, decent quarterback. Was blackballed from, quote unquote, blackballed from the league. However, that situation, whatever you want to take from that, it is what it is. He hasn't been in the league for the while. He wrote a letter to the Jets organization. And it was shared publicly by J. Cole, the rapper. Don't know why he's part of this, but it is what it is. J. Cole shared it, saying that he wanted to help him out. And in the letter, basically, Colin Kaepernick saying, just want to, write this to you to respond to the unfortunate loss of Aaron Rodgers with his injury. It seems like Zach Wilson's, trying, but he's not really living up to the hype. However, I can come in and be your practice squad QB and give your defense a true taste of, a top level quarterback. I'm a mobile quarterback. So, Pat Mahomes, Jordan Love, Justin Fields, you can prep for all these guys. So the defense would be getting advantage there. And also, if you guys like what you see, hey, maybe I'm an option. Obviously, in his letter, he says, obviously, I hope that Zach Wilson finds his stride and that you put together a Super Bowl push. But it doesn't seem like you're that confident in him, and I'm here. I don't know what to take away from this other than why is J. Cole involved? And then 2, why wouldn't the Jets take him up on this offer? Like, what's the harm in doing that?
I agree. I think when you look at this situation, I think it'll create a lot of media buzz. And I think that's what they're trying to avoid. I think they want to keep this as quiet as possible until Aaron Rodgers comes back next year. If he comes back next year. This is a tough injury for him to come back, so that's not a guarantee. But I think they're just trying to keep as quiet as possible. But I think a lot of players will respond to a different perspective if you add Colin Kaepernick to this team. I worry that they might rally behind him just to get Zach Wilson out of the building and not for the benefit of the team, which is the risk there. But yeah, if he comes in and plays a lot better than Zach Wilson, you might have an option at quarterback.
Yeah. And he's been working out, he's been practicing all these years, right? If he's a middle of the pack QB, they have a potential to go far. Like, I don't know what they're seeing in Zach Wilson that literally everyone else is saying, get rid of Zach Wilson, do something else with Zach Wilson. And they're just holding on to him for dear life. I don't get it. I don't understand what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to work on a deal and we just don't know it yet, of course. And you're right. I think they do want to keep it on the down low. I know Colin Kaepernick didn't really want this information to be shared, but J. Cole asked him to. And he's like, sure, put it out there. But like, what? I just don't understand what's going on. What a crazy predicament the Jets organization finds themselves in. I think signing them to the practice squad is in the best interest, even if the players start to riot and push for Colin Kaepernick to start. Because if they are doing that and they just want Zach Wilson gone and Colin Kaepernick's a decent quarterback, then that improves the team. Even if it's for the wrong reasons, it's still an improvement.
Right, because people aren't going to rally around Zach Wilson and they're going to turn on him like they have, and the morale's bad in the locker room.
Yeah, it's already bad. Might as well try something. And if you don't want to trade for a Kirk Cousins or trade for, whoever else may be on the market, sign Colin Kaepernick, have him prove himself on the practice squad. And if he doesn't prove himself, hey, you have a decent quarterback on your practice squad who is a mobile quarterback, at least historically, and can prep you for these teams, or he becomes your starter. Who cares? Like, let it go and let's see what happens.
I don't hate it. I kind of like the idea. It's definitely an interesting idea.
It would be crazy if that works out. If they sign Colin Kaepernick and they win the Super Bowl, I'd lose my mind.
Kaepernick shooting a shot. I get it.
Shoot or shoot.
They do. It's like Travis Kelce. He shot and he got it. So.
And he got it. Who would have thought? What a crazy, crazy storyline.
Did you see how many views his TikTok got on his podcast? Oh my gosh. Just from talking about Taylor Swift, okay? That alone got 6.7 million views.
Good Lord.
Which is like 4 million more than any of their other TikToks.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Another crazy stat is their game against the Bears, which is a terrible game. A lot of people turned off after halftime. Was one of their most streamed games so far this season. And they can see the data, right? And it's specifically because of like a 46% increase in female viewership ages like 16 to 49. So that's insane. And then his jersey sales went up 400%. What? That's
I'm mind blown, okay? You talk about it. So there's all these jokes, right? About the NFL scripted, If it's true, what an intelligent move on their part.
Yeah.
Because if you just added a whole fan base of females specifically that you didn't have before that have instantly become interested because of their idol.
Yeah.
Beautiful marketing.
But yeah, like you said, if this was planned, holy crap, what a great move. One of the best marketing moves of all time.
So now I'm thinking about this a little differently, okay?
Okay.
Carrie Underwood's been the voice of Sunday Night Football. Do they replace it with Taylor Swift? I bet their views go up.
I mean, Carrie Underwood's not dating Travis Kelce. Just on that alone, I mean, you have someone dating one of your star players, someone who's, married and not romantically involved. This drama's not there. Yeah, I think if Taylor Swift writes a banger, make that the Sunday Night Football theme song. I guess I don't know what they even consider it at this point.
Yeah, maybe they take an approach, go Monday Night Football. Maybe they do a Monday Night Football theme song.
That'd be cool.
You have both.
I'd like it.
Why not both?
Well, why not? Honestly, yeah. And then you'll have like Jordan Love dating like Dua Lipa or something crazy. It's like what's going on?
Oh man! All right, that's all we got for you this week. We'll be back Sunday night to talk about the week that we had. We'll talk about our college picks. We'll talk about the NFL. And who knows? Maybe we'll talk about more Taylor Swift. We'll see.
Yeah, and maybe next week we'll talk about the Lions. How they're improving. We never know. We never know. All right, I was gonna say, if you like podcasts, give us a follow, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, do whatever makes you happy, and leave a review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you can leave a review. There should be questions, maybe a poll. Interact with us. Tell us what you like, don't like. Send us some input. We'll put it in the show, and we'll give you some credit. But yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on Sunday.
See ya.